Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the issue that is shaking the foundations of relationships and exposing hidden motivations within the glitzy yet fragile world of the bold and the beautiful. At the heart of this powerful and emotionally charged storyline is a decision that was meant to bring joy, stability, and celebration, but has instead cracked open a web of secrets, regrets, and painful truths that threaten to destroy more than just a wedding. It all began with a moment that seemed perfect on the surface. Hope Logan, after weeks of reflection, finally said yes to Carter Walton's heartfelt marriage proposal. It was a long-awaited development that had been building for months. Carter, devoted and loyal, had stood by Hope's side through heartbreak and emotional turbulence, always offering her steadiness and clarity in a life often ruled by chaos. When Hope announced their engagement at Forrester Creations, the atmosphere erupted in applause and congratulations. Designers, models, and executives alike gathered around her office with smiles, hugs, and champagne toasts, celebrating what many believed to be a beautiful love story reaching its next chapter. Steffi Forrester, Hope's longtime rival turned tentative ally, joined in the chorus of good wishes. She clapped along, smiling, even offered a sincere word or two about happiness and new beginnings. But behind her poised exterior and polished smile, something unsettled churned in Steffi's mind. While everyone else embraced the engagement as a moment of hope and progress, Steffi could not shake her lingering doubts. Her instincts, sharpened by years of emotional entanglements with Hope, Liam, and Carter, warned her that the situation was far more complicated than anyone realized. Privately, Steffi wrestled with the suspicion that Hope's agreement to marry Carter had less to do with love and more to do with another man entirely, Liam Spencer. Liam, Hope's former husband and eternal emotional tether, had been battling a serious illness for weeks. His health had been steadily declining, and the once vibrant man who had loved both Steffi and Hope in different seasons of his life now faced what appeared to be the final chapter of his journey. Steffi knew Liam had always cared for Hope more deeply than words often expressed, and she also knew that, in his quiet way, he had encouraged Hope to move on, to find happiness and stability with someone like Carter. But what if Hope had agreed to marry Carter not because she truly wanted a future with him, but because she wanted to give Liam peace in his final days? What if her yes wasn't an answer to love, but a farewell gift to a dying man? The thought plagued Steffi relentlessly, pushing her to watch every interaction, to analyze Hope's glances, her body language, her tone. Something felt off. And the more Steffi watched, the more convinced she became that this engagement wasn't as joyful as it seemed. Meanwhile, Hope herself was battling an internal storm. The whirlwind of engagement announcements, wedding planning, and enthusiastic support from her family and colleagues only amplified the growing ache inside her chest. She loved Carter, at least, she thought she did. He was kind, attentive, handsome. Never questioned the pace at which their relationship moved. But now, with Liam growing weaker by the day and murmuring through cracked lips how much he wanted Hope to be happy, with Carter, Hope couldn't ignore the uncomfortable truth. Her decision to marry Carter had been shaped, if not fully dictated, by Liam's deteriorating condition. She had wanted to give him peace, to offer him closure, to make sure he could leave this world knowing she wouldn't be alone. It was a noble thought. But it wasn't love. Not the kind of love that deserved vows, rings, and a life built on mutual passion. After countless sleepless nights and quiet tears behind bathroom doors, Hope made a decision. As much as it terrified her, she needed to tell Carter the truth. He deserved honesty, even if it risked everything they had built together. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Forrester building and cast long shadows across the polished conference room floor, Hope asked Carter to meet her in private. He arrived smiling, carrying a folder of sample venue photos, utterly unaware of the bombshell about to be dropped. Hope hesitated at first, but then the words spilled out in a broken, hesitant stream. She told Carter that while she loved him, she wasn't sure it was the kind of love that could sustain a marriage. She admitted that Liam's illness had weighed heavily on her, and that a large part of her decision to accept the proposal was influenced by the desire to comfort Liam, to give him something beautiful to hold on to as his life faded away. She didn't mean to deceive Carter, she said. She simply hadn't known how deep her own guilt and grief ran. Carter stood motionless as the words sliced through the air. For a long moment, silence wrapped around them like a second skin. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold, distant, and unmistakably wounded. The man who had always been the emotional anchor for others now found himself adrift in a storm of betrayal. He could not believe what he was hearing. Hope's confession unraveled every dream he had dared to build with her. He had believed they were partners in every sense, romantic, emotional, even spiritual. And now, to hear that their impending union had been born from pity and obligation, it crushed him. Though he tried to remain composed, Carter's emotions cracked through the surface. He told Hope that while he sympathized with her grief over Liam, he could not and would not be the product of her guilt. He was not a consolation prize. And he refused to walk into a marriage knowing he was second in her heart. With trembling hands, he took off the engagement ring he had given her and placed it quietly on the table between them. Then, with a final, pained look, he walked out, leaving Hope in stunned silence. The cancellation of the wedding spread quickly through the Forrester offices. Whispers filled the halls, and speculation soared as to what had gone wrong. Steffi, who had long suspected the engagement was built on shaky ground, felt a conflicted sense of sorrow and validation. Brooke tried to console her daughter, but even she couldn't mask the disappointment. Rich found himself torn between admiration for Carter's integrity and sadness for both parties who had tried and failed to build something lasting. Hope, meanwhile, was left grappling with the full weight of her decision. She had done what she believed was right, she had been honest, but the aftermath was more devastating than she had imagined. She had lost Carter, the stability he represented, and now faced the very real possibility of losing Liam as well. Alone in her bedroom, she stared at the engagement ring Carter had returned, unable to stop the tears that came in waves. She regretted the pain she caused him, but she also knew that marrying him under false pretenses would have been even crueler. It was a moment of painful clarity. Truth had shattered her illusion. But it had also preserved Carter's dignity, and perhaps, her own. As for Carter, he threw himself into work, burying his heartbreak beneath stacks of legal briefs and contract negotiations. Yet his eyes, once so full of light and hope, now carried the dull ache of betrayal. He avoided Hope in the corridors, offered polite nods in meetings, but spoke only when necessary. The hurt still lingered, raw and unresolved, and no amount of professionalism could hide it. Liam, unaware of the full fallout, continued his struggle with worsening health. He noticed Hope's distant expression, her quiet sadness, but she spared him the truth. In his weakened state, he didn't need another burden. She smiled for him, held his hand, and assured him that she would be okay. But inside, she mourned the happiness that had almost been hers, and the love she couldn't quite reach. And so the story moves forward, laced with regret, shattered expectations, and the quiet hum of unanswered questions. Can Hope find real love again? Will Carter ever forgive her? Can Liam hold on long enough to see her smile for real? In The Bold and the Beautiful, every choice echoes louder than the last, and this one will resonate through every heart it's touched. Next, we will dive into the whirlwind of emotions and dramatic twists surrounding Hope Logan's unexpected engagement to Carter Walton, while pondering the inevitable return of Thomas Forrester, whose heart might still beat for the woman who once slipped through his fingers. Buckle up, because this saga is about to take us on a roller coaster ride through love, betrayal, and unresolved passions in the glitzy world of Forrester Creations. Let's start with the bombshell that has sent shockwaves through Los Angeles and perhaps even across the Atlantic to Europe, where Thomas Forrester is currently residing. On a seemingly ordinary day, May 27th to be exact, Hope Logan, the woman who has danced between love and heartbreak for years, accepted a marriage proposal from none other than Carter Walton, Forrester Creations' suave and stoic COO. The news must have hit like a tidal wave for Thomas, who, despite being miles away, likely felt the sting of this development as though he were standing right in the room. For years, Thomas poured his heart out to Hope, kneeling before her time and time again with a ring in hand, only to be met with gentle rejections. Each time, Hope expressed her deep affection for him but emphasized her need for space after the catastrophic end of her marriage to Liam Spencer. The hesitation was palpable, and while it seemed reasonable at the time, this new engagement raises eyebrows and questions about the sincerity of her past refusals. Reflecting on those days, it's impossible not to feel a pang of sympathy for Hope's predicament back then. Her attraction to Thomas, a magnetic pull that was as undeniable as it was controversial, played a pivotal role in the disintegration of her union with Liam. The speed at which she transitioned from being Liam's devoted wife to Thomas's passionate partner was nothing short of staggering, leaving her reputation in tatters and her emotions in turmoil. Who could blame her for wanting to hit the brakes on any serious commitment so soon after such a public and painful split? As viewers, we understood her reluctance, even if it left Thomas nursing a wounded heart. After all, the shadow of her past mistakes loomed large, and rushing into another marriage might have seemed like a recipe for disaster. But now, with Carter slipping a ring on her finger mere months after their rocky history, one can't help but wonder. Was Hope truly just protecting herself, or was there a deeper game at play? Fast forward to the present, and the dynamics have shifted in ways that are both perplexing and infuriating for longtime fans of Hope and Thomas's story. If we set aside Thomas's admittedly checkered past, marked by obsession and manipulation, he emerged as a near-perfect match for Hope during their time together. His devotion was unwavering, a lighthouse in the storm of her turbulent life. He didn't just love her, he championed her, standing by her side as her fiercest supporter both personally and professionally. As a designer, Thomas single-handedly breathed life into Hope's fashion line, Hope for the Future, ensuring it remained a crown jewel at Forrester Creations despite constant corporate upheavals. His sketches weren't just designs, they were love letters woven into fabric, each stitch a testament to his commitment. Yet, despite all this, Hope couldn't bring herself to say yes to a future with him. Now, in a twist that feels like a slap in the face to Thomas's memory, she's ready to walk down the aisle with Carter, a man who, let's not forget, played a role in her ousting from the company during a brutal power struggle. Carter's betrayal, though later mended with apologies and reconciliations, was a fresh wound not long ago. So, how does one reconcile Hope's refusal to commit to a man who would have taken a bullet for her with her eagerness to marry someone who, metaphorically speaking, once held the gun? This glaring discrepancy has reignited old accusations, particularly those lobbed by Thomas's sister, Steffi Forrester. Steffi, never one to mince words, had long suspected that Hope was merely toying with Thomas's affections, keeping him on a string while she figured out her next move. At the time, it seemed like a harsh judgment, colored perhaps by sibling loyalty. But looking at the current landscape, Steffi's words echo with a haunting clarity. How else can we interpret Hope's sudden willingness to dive headfirst into marriage with Carter, a man whose loyalty to her has been questionable at best, while she repeatedly pushed away Thomas, whose heart was laid bare for her to see? Perhaps Hope was never fully ready to let go of the past with Liam, or maybe she feared the intensity of Thomas's love would consume her. Or, in a more cynical light, could it be that she enjoyed the power of having Thomas wait in the wings, a safety net she could fall back on if needed? Whatever the truth, the optics aren't kind to Hope, painting her as someone who might have played a long, calculated game with the hearts of two very different men. The fallout from this engagement is bound to stir up more than just whispers at Forrester Creations. It's a beacon calling Thomas back to the forefront of this drama. There's no way Thomas, with his deep-rooted connection to Hope and a history of fighting for what he wants, will sit idly by in Europe while she prepares to say I do to another man. His return feels inevitable. A storm brewing on the horizon that could upend everything. Picture this, Thomas striding back into Los Angeles, his eyes burning with a mix of hurt and determination, ready to confront Hope about her choices. He might not come back with a ring this time, but with questions, sharp, piercing questions about why Carter, why now, and what exactly she felt for him all those years. There's a possibility he could even stage a grand gesture, not out of genuine hope for reconciliation, but as a power move to rattle Carter's confidence. Imagine Thomas pulling Carter aside at a lavish Forrester event, a smirk playing on his lips as he casually mentions a private moment from the past, a late-night confession from Hope about lingering feelings, captured on a recording or shared in a heated exchange. I trust in what Hope and I have built, Carter might assert, his voice steady but his eyes betraying doubt. Thomas, ever the provocateur, could retort with biting sarcasm, sure. And I trust in fairy tales. But let me show you something real, before revealing a piece of evidence that Hope's heart might not be as settled as she claims. This potential clash between Thomas and Carter isn't just about pride or rivalry, it's about unresolved chapters in Hope's life that refuse to stay closed. Carter, for all his charm and stability, represents a safe choice, a man who offers a clean slate unmarred by the messy history Thomas carries. But safe doesn't always mean right, and Hope's past with Thomas is a tapestry of passion, creativity, and shared dreams that can't be easily erased. Their connection wasn't just romantic, it was professional, familial, and deeply personal, tied to their children and their legacies at Forrester Creations. Thomas returning could force Hope to confront whether she's truly moved on or if she's simply running from the intensity of what they once had. Will she stand firm in her decision to marry Carter? Or will Thomas's presence reignite old flames that never fully extinguished? And let's not forget the ripple effects on the Forrester family. Steffi will undoubtedly have her own opinions on Thomas's potential homecoming, while Ridge and Brooke might find themselves caught between loyalty to their children and their own complicated history. As we speculate on the future, one thing is crystal clear. Hope's engagement to Carter is not the end of her story with Thomas, but merely a new chapter brimming with tension and possibility. Will Thomas come back to fight for her, to challenge her decision, or simply to prove a point to Carter? Could his return be the catalyst that sinks the Cope ship before it even sets sail, or will it solidify Hope's resolve to start anew? The stage is set for a showdown that could redefine relationships across the board, and we're on the edge of our seats waiting to see how it unfolds. What do you think, loyal viewers? Will Thomas storm back into town to rock the boat, or has hope truly closed the door on their past? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And let's keep this conversation going as the drama at Forrester Creations heats up like never before.